Billies and gentlegoats, welcome to the show. Today with us, the terror from the comment section, the emotional robot bashing everything emotional, the one, the only, Byter!
Beep boop, I am a robot.
He lives in the 21st century, he is a digital boy, and he loves to show about techno-colored ponies, Digibrony!
Hello!
And for the very first time with us this very Sunday, the brownie who likes to debate, Brawny Buck!
Good afternoon, everyone.
And here is your host, the A to the N to the Y, the A&Y Pony!
Hello out there, this is the A&Y Pony, and welcome to the Crepuscular Bronies Discuss. Today's topic is MLP and manliness. For those of you who haven't followed the link which was presented before the show started, the idea for this very episode came from an episode of the Idea channel, who talked about the idea that the definition of the word manly, or the definition of manliness itself, kind of gets challenged and changed by the fact that there are a group of people who quite passionately love a show about little colored ponies who was intended only for little girls. And well, here we are for very manly man, aren't we? Manly face now!
Manly. Well then.
Well then. Okay.
My best manly face.
That's
a little more scary than it is much of a man face. I think we should open this up with a push-up competition.
Something? No.
I don't think I can handle a push-up competition. I'll break. I'm just too tired for that.
I'll forfeit due to laziness.
Bunch of I almost did 50 this morning before breakfast.
So nobody of you has an opinion about manliness and MLP.
The way you've started the question, it isn't really open to much to say.
Right, a starting point would be great.
Okay, so a better question would probably be, for once, being all men above the 20s who are actually into this show, maybe it is a question, how did you feel when you started watching it? Did you feel in some way unmanly? How do you feel about the confrontation with the social view on the whole topic of, oh, it's a little girl show, are you gay? Something like this.
Brony debates,
so,
oh, you guys want me to go first?
Yes.
Sure. Well, it's always a nice point to start with a guest, so we all three are out of the picture.
And we're lazy.
Very well. When I first started watching the show, I didn't really think much of it. I just kind of, one of my friends made this like short animation of that Rarity whining with a sound clip, and I was like, oh goodness, that's hilarious. I wonder where that's from. So I looked it up, saw it was ponies, not a big deal. A few months later, the same friend showed me Ponies Anthology, and I'm like, okay, now I got to know what the show is about. So I started watching the show, and I didn't really think much of it. It was funny, and that's all there really is to it. Now, there was a second part of that question, and let me see if I can remember what it was. It was something along the lines of how I feel challenging the social stigma. Is that correct?
Yeah, this way.
Okay. So,
yes.
As myself, I believe the stigma as a whole is really a non-issue on both sides of the equation. But that doesn't go to say that I don't fear it to a certain degree, because in life I am actually a closet brony. There's only like one person that knows me offline that knows that I watch the show, and there are reasons for that as well. So it's a non-issue, but I'm not ready yet as myself to like tell people what I do. I'm not ready to deal with with running the risk of, you know, so my family thinking less of me.
You are not an open brony, is what you're saying.
Nope.
Because of the stigma of the show.
Yeah, sort of. It's
now this is interesting.
Here's a story for you. The last time I visited my family, My sister brought out her old My Little Pony toys because she was a young girl when the first generation was going on, and she had a whole box of them, and she brought it out. I don't even know where she found it from, but she set them down in front of her 2-year-old son, my nephew, and the kid just started playing with them, and he was having all sorts of fun. My father comes in and goes, "My grandson should not be playing with pony dolls." He was so upset about it. These were the old generation ones. My sister
like
just
a
totally
movie villain.
my sister just totally disregarded him, which made it even more hilarious. And you know, my nephew kept playing with him, and she's like, "Oh, and this one was like used to be Scratch and Sniff, and this one is a unicorn, and this one is a Pegasus," like telling him all about it. And it was funny to watch, but yeah, he reacted like that to my 2-year-old nephew having fun with these old toys. I can only imagine what had happened if his 24-year-old son comes in and says, "Hey, check this out."
Okay, A&Y Pony, it's your turn.
What? No!
On the spot.
Yeah, I guess it's only fair. Yes, for me it was... at least friends who know me are kind of used to me watching a lot of kid stuff anyway. And I was a little bit like you, Digi. Years back, I was very much into anime. And here in Germany was actually the whole anime boom came quite late for me. So in the beginning, there were only a very few animes I could watch on a regular basis who came in the kids program.
What year would this be, like, and what age were you?
It was during the late 90s, and so I was a teenager, in the middle of being a teenager. And, yeah, so
how old are you, A&Y Pony? Are you 30?
28.
Close enough.
Anyways... yes, so one of the very few animes running regularly on television back then in the 90s was, hold your horses, Sailor Moon. So yeah, I already was kind of used to watching girly stuff a while back. And yeah, so for me it was not so hard for myself to say, "Oh my god, I'm watching a girls show!" Ah! So yeah, this wasn't too hard for me. Also, my closer friends all know I'm a little bit nuts, so they were like, "What are you looking there?" Okay, anyways, moving on. So I hadn't to care about them too much as well. It was so I was a semi-closet brony until I started this channel, because I didn't make a secret out of it, at least not for my closer social surroundings, and. But yeah, I have been more or less a closet brony for a year before I started this channel, and it was just like, I want to do it now, I want to do it. And when season 3 started, I wanted to do my dramatic readings and ended up turning into a reviewer, and here I am.
I'm jealous. I'm such a closet brony that I'm sitting in a closet right now.
Yeah, so but it was in the beginning about the question. Yeah.
Okay, why is there an echo? It's like a really fuzzy echo.
It's probably A&Y not having any headphones on.
No, I don't.
Do you have headphones on? Anyway.
Can the chat hear an echo?
Yeah, if the echo should turn out to be bad, I'll switch to headphones. It seems better right now. So yeah, for me it was, I'm pretty sure about my own manliness, and so yeah, I never questioned myself about watching it, and I just enjoyed the show. And yeah, to my closer surroundings, I am open about it, but I actually also am a little bit afraid of the whole stigmatization thing, so I'm not going out there and introducing myself as a brony to other people. I'm not having any...
I think it would be a little weird if you did go around just introducing yourself as, "Hey, I'm a brony."
Wearing a... okay, getting too bad. I'm switching to headphones. One minute. I hate headphones. Did I mention this?
Everyone hates headphones.
Yeah.
I don't mind them.
Anyways,
well, you've got a giant comfortable set on, you know.
Anyway, so continuing with my train of thought. So yeah, there are a lot of people who are openly wearing.
Okay, we still have really bad echo.
Okay, it hasn't been me. Hello.
I don't hear any echo at all yet. You sure you haven't muted the stream or anything like that? Rather than just turn it down really low.
I mute both my streams.
Oh, I've got my
I'm hearing an echo. If that means anything.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it when Byter spoke. I hear it when I speak and when you speak.
Racism.
Okay, trying to have an eye on where it comes from. Yeah, by the way, there are a lot of people who openly wear, guys, also a few of my friends here of the local bronies who are wearing their fan shirts quite openly, and not only the ones with, for example, 20% cooler and just a cutie mark on it, but also ones with a Fluttershy and everything. So they are quite identifiable. You can quite identify them as bronies, and when I hang out with them, I'm wearing my black coat and everything, and not really fitting into the group.
I mean, were you ever the type who would have worn like T-shirts like that? Like, did you wear like band T-shirts and stuff about your favorite shows before Bronydom, or did it only make you interested in wearing it after becoming a brony? Because you know, there's no shame in not wearing a brony T-shirt if you're just not the kind of guy who would wear a brony T-shirt.
I'm
you know,
actually not the band shirt guy anyway. So.
Right. Because I've always been like a total band shirt guy. I pretty much own nothing but shirts with logos and something on them. So, you know, when it came to ponies, it's just like, oh, one more logo shirt to throw on the pile, you know?
Well, here's a funny thing. I always had plain clothes throughout my entire life, but when I became a brony, I started seeing all these like cool designs like the cutie marks and things like that. I'm like, oh, that would make a great shirt. I'm actually, right now, I just recently ordered one with the Fan and Spitfire cutie mark on it. A nice hoodie, zip-up hoodie. I've been wearing that around, too.
Right, and what's great about My Little Pony is that it's pretty much perfect for what my friend called hiding your power level. He did this as an anime fan because he wanted to represent his favorite shows and stuff, but without being obvious. So what he would do is like he was a big fan of Macross. I don't know if any of you have heard of or seen Macross or Robotech.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Well, there's these. He's a big fan of giant robots, and there's a giant robot in the series that was on a team called the Skull Team. And it was known for wearing yellow, black, and white in the specific color scheme. And he had like flip-flops that were designed to look like the same color scheme. So nobody looking at them would think, oh, that's an anime thing. They just think, oh, it's flip-flops, you know, but to him, he knew it was the Skull Leader designed flip-flops. So he had stuff like that. He had the guitars from the anime Beck that were stitched onto a pair of Converse and stuff. So again, just looks like guitars, but it's actually an anime reference to this show Beck. So what's great about My Little Pony is that there's tons of opportunities for that because the cutie marks are so abstract. No one who hasn't seen the show is going to be like, oh, he's wearing this My Little Pony cutie mark thing, you know? It's funny because I so admire the creativity that goes into the hiding your power level thing, but I also just am lazy and don't care, and I'll wear pony shirts anyway, so I haven't actually done any of it, but I think it's a really cool concept.
Yeah. So
are you wearing a pony shirt now?
No, I'm wearing a shirt that says, you sure do got a purty mouth.
Lovely.
So, Byter, you have been interestingly quiet today.
I ain't got much to say, particularly on the topics of going into the fandom in regards to masculinity. I just watched the show, and that's about it.
You didn't
It
have
an issue to me.
doubts
Tell
about
us about how you hide your power level.
I don't. I do. My parents did buy me a Cutie Mark T-shirt, and they did. I guess they. That's the only piece of Brony paraphernalia I have to wear. and that could hide my power level, and I have worn it out in public and there.
Yeah. But it's not intentional. You would wear a normal pony shirt if you had one?
Probably. I'm not the one to buy band shirts or anything like that anyway, really.
Yeah. So, and you had never any negative confrontations like, "Ooh, you watch little show for little girls, are you gay?" or something like this?
Nope.
Oh, good
I get the feeling you haven't put yourself in a number of situations where it would come up.
I certainly have done a fairly good job of avoiding situations like that. I have been called gay for other things.
Okay. Sounds so great.
I know that I ended that on a weird note there, but people associate masculinity with a lot of really strange things that have absolutely nothing to do with masculinity.
Right. This
For
is
example?
very true.
I would
Well,
say,
how about this? Let me
calling
pose
someone gay doesn't actually cross over with saying that they
Are
that they
masculine.
enjoy femininity.
Right.
Let's try
Yeah.
this.
But
Let's
most
go
people
down-
don't understand that, and when they call you gay, they are intending to probably make a slam against your masculinity, but they are just ignorant fucking assholes. So,
And that may be true. Now, let's try this. Let's go down the line here, and let's have each one of you three define what you believe is masculinity or what makes a man. Let's start there.
all right, I'm interested in what you have to say about it first. Actually, I'm
What I
interested in
have
what
to
Byter
say-
has to say about it first.
That's what I was kind of hoping for as well, actually.
Okay, Byter, what's masculinity? Go. But this was a dictionary definition. That's stupid to start there. Anyways, do it.
That would be where I would go first.
He's already looking it up.
I don't know.
Let me get Webster's out here, or Encyclopedia
After we
Britannica.
specifically told him not to.
Was that part of the question?
It was too late. He was already typing. He had to get there. He had to get the dictionary definition.
Well, do you want me to get the dictionary definition or not?
no.
I mean,
would you?
I
I'd
want
rather
to
that
hear
you
what
gave
your opinion is on the matter.
my opinion would probably
Say.
be what's in the dictionary and what context it's being used.
Yeah, it is important to. Actually, I do want to look up the dictionary definition. Just to throw it out here before we start making sweeping statements or something.
Having
Let's not
qualities
use
or
Wikipedia.
appearances traditionally associated with men. For example, strength and
The quality or
aggressiveness.
condition of being masculine, something traditionally considered to be characteristic of a male. So, if masculinity is definitively steeped in tradition, then I guess you would have to say, what is traditionally masculine? Or we say, what are we trying to change the definition of masculinity to be?
Well, I think it's going to be a matter of someone grows up in a social environment, and over time, the way others act and describe what is male or masculine will influence their opinions on said masculinity.
Right.
So it's not purely cultural. It could also, there can be a slight causation in that, in the sense that males and females are physiologically and mentally different.
It's kind of like the fact that we're using the word masculinity is kind of limiting here because of the fact that the definition said it's supposed to be what is traditionally considered masculine. Now each of us might have our own idea of what is traditionally considered masculine, but what's interesting is not talking about what we think traditionally masculinity is. What's more interesting is what we think a man should be, I guess, or our ideas of manhood more so than masculinity itself.
Try considering history throughout the entire world. In almost every successful culture, the male role has been very similar. Very similar throughout history in almost every single successful culture. It's when what we immediately describe as masculine and feminine get reversed where problems actually start occurring. Now then,
I have.
Here's the thing. What attributes
I need like 12 pages of research before I find that.
What attributes are you talking about in the past? I mean, we could talk about, for example, the atomic family and the male's position as the figurehead and breadwinner as
Correct.
attributes.
that's
this
one of
is
them,
not-
but not so much.
I mean, because history has changed. The definition of what is a man has changed a lot in throughout history, and I don't know about this whole aspect of civilization somehow crumbling, is what it sounded like you were implying.
No.
And when civilization crumbles, there's certainly a heck of a lot more to it than just the gender roles getting reversed.
The most successful ones, he said, though, are the ones with certain concepts of masculinity, and those ones are more like. I'm guessing the reason is that one reason could be is they are more likely to profligate if they have more forward-thinking ways of considering masculinity.
That's part of it. That is part of it.
Or there's certain masculinity structures or models that people can make that has caused them to be more successful.
Okay, which masculinity construct has caused?
That's what I asked him about, like whether it was Atomic Family and Breadwinner. But there's other aspects, he said.
Because I would imagine
when
that
society falls, there are other aspects to it, but that is the traditional form of masculinity there as figurehead and breadwinner or the leader to a certain extent. Now, this isn't always the case, especially today.
Yeah, I'd say the image had already changed.
That's what I'm going to say. Right now, we're in a period where the image is more unclear than ever, but we're at a point where society is at its highest point.
Take, for example, the Mention Idea Channel video. One point they make is, for example, that today the stay-home dad is actually something accepted in society, which would not have been accepted only a few years back.
Well, the standard atomic family was adopted because of its logistical advantages. However, with advances in modern technology, houseworking and other duties usually reserved for the female of the family have been moved on towards the male, have been vastly reduced, meaning that both can now be more considered equals, rather than the male being superior, as in the past.
But that's pretty trivial compared to the grand scheme of things. That's just housework, and housework is just one aspect.
Well, I would argue that in the past, half the family of every family unit in an atomic family was spending all their time looking after the children and doing all the housework.
I would disagree from a matter of personal experience. For example, my mother's family had the very, very ideal version of the atomic family, and let me tell you something. Between the 5 children and the 2 parents, all types of work were shared equally. There was no one person that just had one specific job. If you were asked to do something, you just straight did it. Now, what I've been trying to get to...
I think you've misunderstood the scope of which I'm talking about in terms of the historical reasons for the atomic family. The time gap I was establishing was times before the things are called refrigerators, washing machines, other household electrical or similar appliances.
Correct, and I'm saying that this is getting too specific.
Well, you made a disagreement, and my point is, though, in the past, though, in the Victorian era, however, like 200 years ago, the female would be stuck with, in the majority of the time, working on house chores.
Okay, I can't argue with that. That sounds about right to me. And what I'm saying is, when you boil it down, the gender roles ultimately come down to one thing. In raising children, the studies that I have followed have shown that a mother and a father will have very subtle differences that are equally important and supplemental to each other, that will help bring the child up in a developmental way that it's constructive to the way that their psyche will develop, if that makes any sense.
You're rushing with very broad strokes that I doubt is supported by any one paper.
I'll when the live stream's over, because I have trouble thinking and typing at the same time, I'll pull up what I found for you and show it to you, Byter. Or at least I'll do my best. So something to take a look at: the research of the National Organization for Marriage. It's an American society that studies the atomic. It's an American society that studies the atomic family and its traditional aspect and gets understanding its pros and cons.
There's only one thing I would mention: is the Organization for Marriage might be a little biased.
To a degree, yes, and sometimes
I would prefer
and sometimes their bias does show in their method, but I would not link you to anything that showed any signs of that.
It depends on how they have been biased, if they have been biased at all. It depends where this paper has been published, and with what certainty we know their methods. I think the claims of males and females when parenting children give their own bits that are supplementary to one another. It sounds very hard to scientifically prove that.
So I guess to dig deeper into this issue,
it takes long-term observation over over a wide variety of people.
So I guess to go further into this issue, you probably need to do some research first.
The question, the thing also is, then we're going into an area I didn't think we were going into, but could it be, for example, a true-false, what's it called, where you read something as true, but it's actually false, i.e., it's an anomaly that isn't. That is very off from the norm. I mean, we need this experiment to be repeated. Okay, you do your scientific experiment, and you get results that are very far off. So far off the norm that you say this is an exceptional result. But that isn't complete proof that the claim you've made is true. It's only that in that one circumstance you may have got the extreme results, because it's all going to be down to random chance of who you select in your group.
If you're selecting your group with bias, you have a real problem.
So,
no, I'm saying that even with an unbiased study, there is a potential for a true negative, i.e., if it isn't a matter of...
May I go in between? We are now just talking about how to do studies and eventualities, aren't you?
Yep.
So
yeah, this conversation's not going anywhere anymore.
But I got a nice question from the chat. This is still related. So, Personality asked, where do we think the stereotypes actually come from? The ones that men are not supposed to watch little colored ponies, and women are allowed to.
Actually, I think that probably is something we've pretty much already addressed in the fact that we were talking about that society kind of progressed towards a certain vision of masculinity, and that vision...
Well, it's actually slightly differently that question was phrased in the sense, why can't a man do feminine activities?
Right.
And that is because we, at least in many other circumstances, we try and enforce a maybe artificial divide between males and females and what they want, that we define as what a man or female does. And if they're doing the opposite, then they are perceived as deviant.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw a man walking down the street and covered in all pink, that would be something that some people might go, and be confused by.
Right. Even though it was standard a few hundred years ago.
Or like, well, actually, if you watch the video that started all this, he mentioned that it was only up to the 1920s where pink was the traditional color for boys. It was actually the other way around, and only in the last 90 or so years has it been flipped.
For what reason ever?
It's just, it flipped. I don't know exactly.
There's a better question.
It doesn't matter which color is associated with one or the other, really.
Mm-hmm.
And in a similar regard, I don't know exactly why, for example, ponies are assumed to be feminine.
Yeah, that's also a good question. Because riding in general is, well, even riding in general, I believe, has become partially a feminine thing, at least as long as you're not wearing a fancy uniform or anything like this.
Historically, the availability of horses have usually been very low, since horses are expensive animals, and they have been used rather than in farming as for military warfare, which has usually been exclusively male. In the times when the horses became less functional to society, generally around the First World War, where cavalry were found to be not useful in modern contemporary battlefields. They were not used anymore as cavalry. And now they are, I don't know, all the times I see horses are usually for races.
Yeah. But as a hobby, only girls are kind of allowed to have horses for some, or like to enjoy them.
I disagree with that. I've known a couple of men that have horses and love horseback riding and things like that. I will be honest, though, I've known more women, a few of my cousins, you know, and things of that nature, that I have known more women that are into horseback riding and things like that.
It is an interesting stereotype that I have seen crop up in media that I don't know the exact causation of, in terms of a little girl wanting a pony. Like it may be like the spoiled brat stereotype,
Or
who just demands a pony.
Lisa Simpson, for example.
Yeah, that for some reason in the media it's always it's cropped up that for some reason girls demand little ponies for some reason. I don't know where that started.
Yeah, maybe it is even Hasbro's doing by creating the My Little Pony franchise in the 80s, while for girls, and creating Transformers for the guys.
It's yeah, it's an interesting thing in comparison of masculine and feminine cultures in terms of that. Typically, female things aren't as well done or as deep as masculine things.
Even so, I know a lot of crappy masculine, supposed to be masculine stuff as well. So,
correct.
Yeah.
It can go in either direction. If you boil it down to mere stereotypes, you're gonna get the females have the really, I refer to it as the tea party type of deal. And the masculine stuff is going to be senseless violence, and that's the pattern I've noticed.
The thing though, however, is even on what I would say is sometimes we have like epic stories like Lord of the Rings or other programs that we've liked when growing up, and they've usually featured male protagonists. The most of the good stuff out there is generally from a male perspective. Think of all the Pixar movies. The best ones have all been from the male perspective, and when they tried to handle it in their most recent one with a female protagonist, they felt they had to withdraw back onto slapstick.
I haven't seen Brave yet, but I want to.
Yeah, and
I haven't either.
So.
It's a thing that there's actually a social stigma with enjoying feminine things, that generally they aren't so well done. And that was a thing with the MLP series.
So, I believe, you haven't even get around to say something about your personal experience, did you?
No, I did not. Also, just on that last point,
okay.
I just wanted to say, my favorite movie is actually a feminine movie. Have you guys seen Tangled?
Not yet, damn it.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Fucking awesome.
It's got its funny moments. I wouldn't. It's not my favorite Disney movie.
I think it's my favorite movie, just period. I fucking loved that shit from start to finish. It had the I don't know. The funny thing is that I'm actually biased. Why is there an echo for me? What am I fucking? Anyway.
Don't worry, I hear it too.
I don't know why there's an echo for me.
It's coming from Byters' end.
Is it? I can unplug and plug my thing. I don't know why it's doing echo.
Anyway.
Oh, it's good.
Anyway. Yeah, Bert pointed out it was Tangled was marketed for boys, probably because of the fact that they knew it was really fucking good, and they were afraid that if they marketed it for girls, then people would think it was shitty, because that's, you know, the stigma attached to it. But they did market towards both genders pretty extensively. But yeah.
Now, is that what they said?
Yeah, it was marketed for both. If you look at that's why they changed the name to Tangled, actually. They were going to just call it Rapunzel, but they thought that... what the hell was that?
Now it's even worse. And
It
it's
happened
gone,
all at once.
I guess it was just a problem.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Right. What I was gonna
What
say.
is this, Bear?
I believe
Interestingly enough, I'm actually somewhat biased towards feminine stuff, and I don't really know why, but I just kind of am. I really like things that are feminine. So when I see something that's feminine and it's really good, then it's like, this is the best thing ever. Which is why both with My Little Pony and Tangled, it's like I was almost biased towards it because it was more feminine. You know, as
Well,
an
what
anime
aspects
fan,
are you describing as feminine? I don't know.
basically being about girls. I like shows and stuff that are about girls, and in a sense where I believe that these characters are girls and not girls as written by men who don't understand girls. So, like, for instance, I've been reading comic books lately, and I really enjoyed Batwoman and Wonder Woman in the New 52 comics, right? Because both of them felt like characters who they were believable as women, whereas something like Supergirl was just like doesn't really, not just as a woman, but just as a character, she just felt like not that good. So if I see a character who I guess the way I'm saying it is that there's a lot of shitty female characters out there. Even in stories that have great male characters, oftentimes they'll fuck up when it comes to the female characters. So when I can see a show with great, believable, interesting female characters, then I'm particularly biased towards that, which is how I felt about Tangled and about MLP, obviously. Interestingly enough, MLP is actually short on interesting, cool male characters, but that doesn't bother me, because I am pretty biased towards the female characters anyway.
You see, I've never noticed either way. If a character is good, then a character is good. I won't notice if a character is good if they're a male or a female. It's when you get a bad male character or a bad female character, that's when I stast looking like,
right,
oh
but
dear
the thing
goodness,
is that
this
a lot
writer
of
had no idea what they were doing.
A lot of writers will write a female character who is a good character, but almost like they're trying to ignore the fact that it is a girl. I'm trying to think of a good example, but
and I can't think of any other way to write a character other than to ignore their gender.
No, that's wrong, because the fact is that their gender is a part of who they are. That's something that was very important to My Little Pony that Lauren Faust definitely did not want to ignore in her show, was that these ponies were girls. That's why they are allowed to be interested in things like fashion and, going to the spa and stuff, which you could say, hey, guys can be interested in that too, but the important thing was that girls had to be allowed to be interested in that. She did not want her ponies to be girl characters who ignored femininity. She wanted them to embrace femininity and make that definitely a part of who they were, was that they were feminine and they were great characters. So even if MLP had men who were feminine and were great characters, that's fine, but it was important that the women were feminine because she wanted to embrace that self-identity.
I guess that makes sense. I would say, no, that makes sense. Did you see Wreck-It Ralph?
Yes.
Another great
I really like that girl from the first-person shooter.
Yeah.
She was my type
and
of girl.
they don't ignore that she is a woman, because she does get into a relationship. She does have her whole her backstory was that she had this wedding that went wrong, and her husband got killed, or her fiance, I guess, because they were about to be married. So she was allowed to be also this blushing bride-to-be, even though she was also this hard-ass Marine. They didn't try to make it so she was just a hard-ass at all times. She had a soft side. She had a feminine side. And the guy who she fell in love with was also... And that's actually a good example of the guy was somewhat feminine himself, although he also seemed to be into the male... He somewhat played the role of, like, I want to rescue you, but it wasn't as a man rescuing a woman. They both were rescuing each other. They had this sort of mutual respect, and both of them were badasses,
and that's why it works so well.
Right.
But it's interesting that you mention her as being this very relatable interesting character, because I actually, shame on me, haven't seen this movie yet, even though I heard it was great. But a lot I heard about this movie was like mentioning this this female Marine character who is not even main character. I believe the big guy, what's his name, Wreck-It Ralph, and the little annoying girl are the main cast, I believe. And she is actually more a side character. And even so, everybody talks about how great she was written. And now you are saying that she actually was a female character who was allowed to be female. So
that's a big part of it's that she's allowed to be female while also being a hard ass. Because there's a lot of hard ass female characters out there who are just all about, they're just
as much as a flat cardboard cutout as a male.
Right. To give an example, like the kind of character that she's supposed to be a parody of is the same kind of character. If you Spitfire in Wonderbolt Academy is supposed to be a parody of this same kind of character, where she's supposed to be this total hard ass. Obviously, Spitfire is just a one-off role, not a big deal, but that's the kind of character that she would have been, and it would have just been non-stop hard ass all the time. But she's not like that. That's what makes her great. Is that she did fall in love with someone. She had this tragic wedding backstory, But never once is she the damsel in distress. They never. It's not like, oh, she's a hard ass, but she still needs a man to save her. She saves the man, while being a hard ass. And
that's a good point. Now let me pose this question to you: if you're doing your characterization, and you have a man and a woman, you brought up some great points about not ignoring their gender. Thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. There are ways that a man will react to certain situations. There are ways that a woman will react to certain situations, and there are ways that greatly outweigh both of them that are just plain normal human interactions. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I meant earlier was that when writing, you don't completely ignore gender, but it is a very small bit in considering everything else, how they might react to a situation when telling your story. You also still have to consider their backstory, their general personality, and everything like that.
The problem is simply that so many writers think so much about the fact that they are making this they'll say, I'm making a female character. I feel like this is where a lot of the hard-ass female characters come from. I feel like there's a thought process that goes into it, where people look at the history of female characters and they say, okay, I'm sick of seeing all these damsels in distress and all these girly girls, so I'm going to take my girl and I'm going to make her the opposite of that. I'm going to make her a total hard-ass, a total badass. But this is just writing... sometimes they can be a total hard ass, and it's not that they're writing a man, it's just that they're writing an empty character. And then there's other times where they write the female and they just try to make her a man with boobs, and that's where the weakness comes. You can't forget that she's a female, you can't forget
precisely. It has to be taken into consideration with about 3 dozen other things while you're writing a character. Yeah, we hear you.
I can't hear you, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, he can't hear us.
Who can't hear us?
I think Digi just said that.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you now.
And now you are a bit quiet. You are there, but very quiet.
Why am I quiet?
Hello. Nobody knows.
Oh,
there we go.
Just the mic was too far away from the mouse. Now it's quiet again. I guess you have to fix your mic.
Am I normal now?
No. To a degree. Better, but not normal yet.
God damn it.
Maybe you have to do the scan thing and close some windows.
So with that being said,
by the way, Scan is in the chat. Hi, Scan.
Alright, how about
sorry about forgetting that link, Scan. That was wrong. It was bad of me.
This is horrible. Why am
I have no idea.
Something's on fire.
Well, to give something else. Yeah, something I was reminded about when you talked still very quiet.
This is the volume for you guys, not for me.
Oh, but it's getting better right now.
How about this?
Oh, you're back!
That's why. It's the volume controls on my computer are controlling the volume of my microphone. Yeah. I don't know why.
The important thing is that we know.
Yeah. So, something I was reminded of. Did somebody else of you saw the not really great but nevertheless movie that happened, Snakes on a Plane?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. One aspect about this movie I really liked, besides all the I don't want this motherfucking snakes on my motherfucking plane. No, the one thing that I kept in mind the most about this whole movie was actually the steward. The steward who is so, oh, and then I'm doing this with my friend and everything, who was portrayed so stereotypically you would call gay, but in the end it turns out he was like the male Barbie doll, Ken, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a total Ken out of flesh and blood, and in the very end, and he was always talking about his girlfriend. Everybody was like, "Your girlfriend, sure." And in the very end, when they all leave the plane, and he's one of the survivors, and he goes out of the plane, and then there comes a girl running towards him, jumping him like, "Oh, you are there!" And she is actually an embodiment of Barbie. So this was also this.
This is obviously meant mostly as a stupid joke, but it is.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
A better example though is that actual. You guys seen Toy Story 3, right?
No. I'm ashamed for this podcast.
Well, okay. For the record, I only saw it like a month ago, but the character Ken in Toy Story 3 is totally. He's a brilliant character because he's totally in love with Barbie, but he's just complete metrosexual stereotype guy. But you know, it's just the way. I think there's even parts where Barbie's like accusing him of being gay, and he's like, "No, come on."
Oh,
Well, what I was going to say though,
blood.
in the Snake's Plane movie, I thought it always come across to me as more kind of like a parody movie.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
When we're talking about like a good female character, it's in the type of show where a good character actually has any meaning. Yeah, if you're in a parody show, then it doesn't matter if your characters are cardboard cutouts or aren't realistic. It's because you're using them for the humor.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, I'm guessing, when we're saying about normal female characters, is when they try and use them in a story and try and make the character interesting or important and more than a cutout, is that females usually get the short end of the stick, and there's usually a lot less of them. There's also another thing I thought we should pick up on, is just the types of stories they are often involved in. So, I mean, I was going to say, Lord of the Rings, they only have like 2 female characters.
Right.
And both of them fawn over Aragorn as sort of their reason for being there. And they don't get to do as much as the men. So they're not completely flat, but the amount of stuff they get to do is hugely reduced.
Except stab the main villain in the face and turn him into a can of crumpled aluminum.
Yeah.
But also, this was only this was a little bit forced. Like, no man can kill me, and I am not a man.
So funny.
Yeah,
all the time leading up,
it kind of felt like a joke. After all, the one great thing female character in this whole story got to do, and it still felt like this.
Interestingly, for the whole thing, it's kind of like in the Two Towers, she basically sort of sits at the sidelines, whereas all the political stuff's going on, and just kind of looks upset for most of it. She doesn't have any power, and then when they're moving along, all she can do is push all the civilians along and hide with them in the cave. And that's kind of the same for the third movie, that they said, "Oh, just you can come along with us, but then you have to go back home and hide." And she said, "No, screw you guys, I'm actually coming along." But even then, her position in the story was as a repressed female.
I just got an idea for a twist on the initial question we started on, like masculinity in MLP, and somebody of you already brought up the rather not so great male characters in the show. So the actual representation of masculine characters in MLP is actually something not really bothering me, but something I always felt like, okay,
I mean, there are good male characters, they just don't really get the spotlight much. I think people focus a lot on Big Mac because it's like the one recurring man, and he just has no dialogue, But
he's so manly.
And
not
he does
talking
get
much
those
is
great
manly.
moments of being interested in feminine things because he's in love with the sweetie doll.
The wise man embraces silence.
But there is
My pants.
at least one. I like Fancy Pants. He's my favorite fucking male character in the show.
He was actually he was the one in Sweden the lead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the incredibly girly story of making dresses.
Yeah, but he actually acted like an
he
insane...
didn't make dresses or anything though.
Yeah.
No, I
He
didn't.
acted
I
like
didn't
the
mean that in
same-
regards to his character.
He's just an
It was-
expert on the topic of fashion, is what he is.
Yeah.
I know. All I was saying
He was a good character, but he was pretentious as all get. I know
No,
people
man,
like
he's
that.
not
They bother me.
pretentious. No, Fancy Pants is not pretentious. That's actually the point of his character, is that everyone else is pretentious, but he's not. Because when he sees Twilight Sparkle's dress, he's completely honest about it, and it's just like, hey, this is charmingly rustic, and then everyone else is pretentious because they pretend to reflect his opinion when they didn't originally have the opinion.
And there's the sound of me shooting myself in the foot. I got the names mixed up with the characters.
Are you
I know who Fancy...
Hoity-toity Fancy Pants.
Right.
Yes, it was hoity-toity I was thinking of.
I was getting confused with you guys
The
as well.
difference is that hoity-toity sounds like this, whereas fancy pants. No, what did he? It was sort
He-
of.
he's pretty much like my voice.
Fancy Pants is a cool guy.
Did he have a
Fancy Pants
British?
is a cool guy.
He
I
had
thought
that sort of that adventurous British accent, right? Something like that.
he was
No?
posh.
Was that?
No, it's kind of more like my voice.
Quite right. No,
Byter, do the voice for us.
I haven't
'cause you're
seen the
only one
episode
here
in
that
like a
can.
year.
a Brit.
This requires me to do an accent. It's pretty similar to my normal voice anyway, isn't it?
That's
Exactly,
it!
that's why-
Really, not the way I remember.
No.
It's similar. I don't
I
do
need to
accents.
see the episode again.
Yeah. Oh, quite smashing my God.
hoity-toity though.
Please don't. Or I start doing snails.
These dresses are
Well,
abysmal.
I'll say about MLP is
You
that
do snails, I'm gonna do snips, and you don't want that. I'm too close to the microphone for that shit.
for the most part, they just write in characters, and for the most part, they have a predisposition. They're predisposed to do female characters
Right.
for the most part. But it's just like we need a fashionista character to analyze rarity stuff. So
Yeah.
they just throw someone in, and they try and take an influence from a real life male or female designer.
Which
or
I ended up researching the hell out of that guy. The guy who hoity-toity was.
Hoity-toity.
Yeah, who was based on.
He
I
was
can't
also
remember his name.
Iron
He's
Will,
a German
wasn't he?
guy. A&Y Pony,
wait.
who's a famous German fashion superstar.
I'm trying
It's
to
like
come
80
out.
now.
Gosh,
Yeah,
it's
they're
good
already.
to do anything.
If we were all looking at the
but
chat,
kitchen
it's Carl
sink.
Lagerfeld.
I'm not into fashion. I know. I probably know who it's based on.
Who
But,
was Photo Finish? I know Photo Finish was a parody of
also
some.
German, I believe. Oh God, how do you write hoity-toity?
It's Carl Lagerfeld. Look at the chat.
Ah, Karl Lagerfeld. Okay, you see. Chat is anyways. The chat has more or less listed every single male character we got in the show by now. Yeah, I guess another one worth mentioning for rather good example would be Shining Armor, but he's still pretty flat. He's just all Twilight. And,
Yeah, he's pretty flat. They haven't
If
expanded
it was a
his
live-action
character.
series, he would be played by Keanu Reeves.
I'm glad someone else said that.
It will be mentioned Sombra, the only
Oh, yeah, he
and
is a-
Discord.
Well, yeah,
And
Discord's,
He-
clearly a deeper character, but not really. I
Well,
wouldn't
Discord
really
isn't particularly.
associate him with being a man. He's more just an embodiment of a concept.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Discord isn't particularly. He's not a deep, realistic character.
Yeah.
He's just the spirit of chaos, and he loves doing it while he's doing it. He's not particularly got his own ambitions, morals, and backstory. He just goes around doing chaos.
Yeah.
It's Sombra is more or less.
Which kind of is
the
his ambition,
embodiment
moral,
of-
and backstory.
Here's a question for everyone here. Do you think there's a justification for any type of stigma that might exist against bronies?
I don't.
Well, I will say that you are justified to say that they are males who enjoy feminine content.
Right.
I mean,
Obviously, that's not
The
really
stigma being
stigmatizing.
something
Yeah,
negative.
I would say that is
Stigma
just
being
That's
something
only
negative.
that's only stigmatizing when you take that automatically to mean a bad thing.
But the thing is, are we really interested in the feminine part of the context content, or are we actually rather interested in the story, character, animation, yada yada yada?
And that's a
And
good
that's what-
question, and
and
my
that's what
answer
I
is that
would
I
say.
am.
Right, I'm in for it because I like the slapstick. They don't exactly, say anything that I'm totally against on a moral standpoint, so I can enjoy it there. And it's just plain enjoyable. I love the slapstick comedy whenever they do that. What I would say is that the stigma most likely came from layers of things. The first layer being that there, have been a number of marketing studies that show that boys, when you're marketing towards children, boys will gravitate towards things that are more aggressive and strong looking, such as what Transformers might be. Hey, boys love cars and they love robots, and they love fighting, so why don't we put them all together? And then the girls of a younger age will tend to gravitate towards more nurturing instincts.
It may also be noted that
social
it's the
aspects.
parents who buy the toys rather than the children.
Right. So the girls would be more towards nurturing and social things of that nature. So they
The
tend
girls'
to
parents. Yeah.
Yeah, so with those bits of information in mind, different marketing companies, when aiming something towards those demographics, will take it in those general directions. So that obviously happened with My Little Pony, Hasbro, Transformers, everything, G.I. Joe. So what they did is then, you have these characters and these stories in the first few generations of My Little Pony, and they're acting like a heavy stereotypical girl. Everything's really colorful. They're very social. They got these dances going on. They care about relationships, things like that. But none of it was very well written. It was all very much written for a very young audience that you might even just be introducing the concepts of these social relationships to your demographic. That's how young they are, and with that, you've got to handle it in such a sensitive way that it ends up coming out bad. That people of an older audience shouldn't enjoy or even understand, and that's part of the reason why it was so bad for us. And then this came along. Friendship.
All right, Brony debates. We need to cut you off because Byter's gonna have a fucking hernia, and I think he's still upset that you told him that he can't interrupt you before.
I'm trying to bring
and also I have
this to a
something else,
culmination here. You should learn some patience, but okay, go ahead.
No, the thing
I
is,
had
at
something
least
to
when
add too.
I find with conversations, is actually you try and keep your points short and sweet, because if you say 50,000 things, then your opponent won't remember the first thing you said. But anyway, I'm not sure that your claims about how the writers went into the show was... I'm not sure what evidence you're using for
Keep in
previous
mind,
seasons.
I'm talking about the original generations, the
Yeah.
first three.
Have you
Just really
seen
hold on before you guys even
details?
continue. I kind of just want to bust in here because I'm gonna lose track of this fucking point if I don't.
Yeah,
Because
that's my problem.
Earlier, okay, back to what someone said at some point before all the fucking talking. It was brought up that you like the show. Do you like it for the femininity or looking past it? And someone in the comments had said, I look past the femininity, and I think what Brony Debates was basically getting to is that he looks past the femininity as well, right?
Correct.
You appreciate it for all the characterization and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then he
that
got
you
a bit
felt was not
sidetracked.
in the.
I
that you
hardly
felt was
ever
not
see
in
the
original shows.
femininity in the first place, or
Well,
I
here's
just
the thing for me. When
I
it
just
comes
see
to
funny.
Right. When it comes to the femininity in the show, it actually is a big deal for me. And the reason I know this to be true is because of the fact that it's just My Little Pony that I'm this into, I don't necessarily think that the jokes or characters or anything like that are better than other things I've seen, or that it's the best thing that I've seen. Just with regards to things like that. Like, if I wanted to say, what's the thing with the most interesting, deepest, intricate characters, I'd probably go for Homestuck, which kind of wins by default, and I'm sure none of you have read it, but...
I got to get around to checking out Homestuck. I hear
the
about
thing
it all
is,
the time.
if you read Homestuck, it's going to take you forever. it is fucking long. It's like longer. Take all the epic poems, and combine them, and then combine that with the next top 10 biggest books, and it's that big. So it's.
Is it even finished yet?
No, it's still running. It will probably
exactly.
be finished within about a year from now. So it's working towards the end. But even when it's over, the sheer amount of time it will take to read. That's why I don't usually tell people to read Homestuck, even though I think it's one of the best things around. It's just because it's too damn long for anybody to handle, unless you want to spend months reading it. Which my little brother did.
I skipped.
I powered through it in 4 days, where I was like reading it nonstop from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed for 4 straight days.
Again with the long
I didn't have to work. Yeah,
points.
Long tangent. Sorry, Byter. I call myself on that one. That's my fault. Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that the...
Wait, I wasn't done, though. Because...
well, you've made your point, though, haven't you?
No. My point was that I like MLP more than any of those things that I also think are good. And so the only reason I can think of for why is maybe I like it because it's a feminine show that is good like that. You know, it's not exclusive in its goodness, but it is exclusive in its goodness and being feminine.
Yeah, this is a point that both of you...
longer than what I was saying.
Yeah, except both of you spent 5 hours talking about it. Yeah, there is certainly a big, huge... There's a big... Yeah, you may have realized that my 5 hours was an exaggeration.
Thank you, Byter.
Quite a large exaggeration, in fact, since we've been here for only 1 hour, and that is 5 times the guesstimate. Also, I would not claim that one long point you made, well, several points, was the entire conversation.
Byter, you're being long-winded and nobody gives a fuck. Please move on.
Well, if you're going to try and read what I'm saying, and get me off topic, I am going to have to, unfortunately, break down what you're saying. So, yeah, if you bring up pointless shit, I'm going to talk about pointless shit. Right. I was going to say, yeah, my point was simply that, yeah, a great, huge draw for the show is the huge contrast. I don't think Brony Debate has hit it on the nail, though, for what it was in the past. And that's why I was asking for his evidence. And for Digi, I'm not sure if it's entirely just that it's the femininity. It's the fact that it's MLP done not terribly. That is amazing.
I mean, I haven't seen any of the other MLPs, so I don't really know the comparison there.
I tried to watch them. I got through more of the other generations. I got through more Generation 1 than I could of anything else. After that, I lasted about 10 minutes apiece.
Right. I mean, I've heard that G1 is okay. I've heard the other seasons are bad, and I'm not going to go out of my way to watch them if I've heard they're bad. I'm just...
I actually watched one whole episode or half an episode of G2 because I was looking for the Boys song I used in in my shipping video, right. And yeah, I was thinking about was it a review or another video. And yeah, so I watched this episode and yeah, it's so... the character, so it's just trying to simulate a real normal teenager life, and the girls are all into dating, and the boys, and it's not interesting, it's not exciting. It's just just a boring show about high school kids with ponies instead of humans.
As I mentioned before, it's not just having good characters; it was also having fairly good stories to tell. It's both of those together. That just because you're doing stories about MLP doesn't mean it has to suck. And I wanted to do a contrast that with the reasons Brony Debates said he liked MLP, in the sense that my big contrarian point about Season 3 was that it went for a focus on slapstick compared to previous seasons.
It's the reason. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed it. You know, most stories and most cartoons will also pose a moral to some degree, and most cartoons I watch and I'm like, oh goodness, this is just silly, or why are you trying to tell people that that's wrong? And I didn't have that problem with this show.
Yeah, my difference though is that I said that the inclusion of more proactive slapstick has actually detracted from me the reasons I enjoyed the show.
Okay, well that's just a difference in our taste then. That's not a big deal.
Yeah. It's. I would argue before that the previous seasons, whilst they had puns and humorous bits and pieces here and there, the humor was always incidental to the main story and the characters. that for me the principal engagement of the show was the characters rather than the slapstick.
I see.
And by making it about slapstick, you are often in season 3 degrading the characters.
Perhaps. Well, no, not. I don't know. I don't know about that. Not season 3. I thought you said Generation 3 for a second. Now, you were going to bring up a point about the history of the franchise that I was trying to gloss over and summarize. Yeah, well, I was trying to summarize what I understood of it, and so you wanted to bring up a point about that. Can you say what that was?
I would say that at least from reputation alone and from what stories and episodes I've seen, that previous seasons at least told generic stories, generic feminine stories, so shopping, boys, princesses,
Precisely.
But they didn't do it well.
Exactly.
To contrast, we had the wedding episode, and many people were, trepidatious about that. Oh, it's just going to be all about the wedding. It's going to be so boring. But no, they actually took that and did a huge action twist on it.
Now, how's that different from what I had said?
Hmm?
How's that different from what I had said?
You said, what was it you said?
I said that's what it was because that's what they felt was effective marketing towards little girls.
Well, I would argue it's not. It may be that they felt that they could be lazy, but I would argue that instead it was just that they took. They wrote really simple stories that weren't actually that functional because they were trying to talk about feminine topics. As to their reasoning, I cannot claim. All I know is that because they were dealing with typically female things and they did it poorly.
Right. Now, the culmination that I was trying to bring the point to was that because they had done it so poorly in the past and it was marketed to such a young audience and it reflected so in the effort that they put forward, when Friendship is Magic came along that tried to be universally applicable to and enjoyable to across the demographics, then people actually started liking it. Everyone remembers the previous generations and how bad they were, and even if it's not a question of your masculinity, it's a question perhaps even of your sanity. Like, how could a normal person enjoy that, but without seeing it, they might not understand that it is a different type of humor and a different type of writing with actual effort and quality, as opposed to the past where it just wasn't.
In short, it is amazing that they watched girls' TV programming that didn't suck.
Right, but those who haven't seen the show obviously have no way of knowing. They just know that the past sucked, and they hear the name My Little Pony, and it instantly brings up those memories in their head.
Yep.
Which kind of brings us full circle that the deception of manliness is kind of what the people are associating with it, or that all of this whole problematic, all of this whole stigmatization and everything kind of depends on the reception of all of it in society.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's based upon their perception of reality upon growing up or as they have lived. And the common perspective on MLP has been it's sucky girls TV. Except this one was different, at least in seasons 1 and 2, for not sucking.
So, would you guys say that the MLP G4 has actually the mentioned chance to kind of change for once the reputation of MLP, as well as what is allowed for men in general or to enjoy or not?
I don't think it's the causation act. It's not the one causing it. It depends which one is the cause and which one's the effect. A point to note will be, for example, the huge difference between in the more mature audiences of the Bronies, the ratio between males and females. That the majority is still male in the more mature audience. I would argue this could be a consequence of males being more socially free. That to be a nerd is more often associated with being a male, and to those who often are more likely to go out and be interested in parts of culture that aren't normally purviewed by the common society.
So I take it your series rather that the show and its fandom, it's not so much changing the current status in the society, but it is that the fact that it gets enjoyed so much is part of the process.
I would argue the biggest cause first, it would be just circumstances surrounding MLP rather than MLP itself. And the biggest circumstances, that is the freedom of males and females to go out and try and enjoy different forms of media.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I guess this is a good point to close this thing off. Does one of you want to give a personal final statement about this whole topic?
Blarg.
Whoa!
That's my word.
Yeah. Okay, now
Oh my
Digi stealing
God.
people's bits.
I did
This will end badly.
yeah. Blog indeed, and that's my 8 bits.
Well,
Your 8 bits. Lovely.
yeah. In case in case nobody has so much final concluding to say about this, so the question: what is going on your when you are not talking on a podcast at the moment? I believe, especially for you, debates, it's maybe interesting to get out there what people can expect visiting your YouTube channel.
Okay, I do have some final thoughts. The final thoughts are that, well, while you might see someone enjoying something that's not well written, for example, let's say I did enjoy the 3rd generation of My Little Pony, that wouldn't make me any less of a man. What would make me less of a man is more or less what would make me less of a good person. That would be the inability to I don't know, tell the truth, have courage, go about my daily life the way I need to, and provide for a family should I have one. That would make me less of a man, not necessarily any kind of choice of entertainment I have, though because of what I said before, I'd understand why you might think that, you know, oh goodness, it's Generation 3, how can you possibly enjoy that type of thing, and what's wrong with you for enjoying it? So those are my final thoughts on what manliness is and how the show affects it. I don't believe it's changed the definition in any way. It's changed the definition of what is manly, because that was already kind of going in that general direction. If it's changed at all since Pony started up. As for my channel, I'm relatively new to the podcasting thing. I'm just getting started. I think I've only got like 15 videos on there now. 3 of them are jokes and 1 of them is an advertisement. And what I try to do is I try to take different parts of the fandom, I try to take different parts of the show, and I give it a thoughtful analysis. And the reason I started doing this was because I tend to have a different opinion. So I'm either playing a devil's advocate against the very common grain of Brony thoughts. For example, I really like the opening of Season 1 and nobody else seems to, yeah, Season 1 and Season 3 is what I originally meant to say, but it's still applicable. Or I, want to get my voice out there of what I think about the fandom, or analyze specific parts of an episode that I believe other people have not touched upon, because I tend to see things that most other people don't, for better or worse, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what I do, and I'm trying to get things out there on a little bit more regular basis, as well as open up a variety of more things, such as dramatic readings, live action scene reenactments, music videos, things like that. But if anyone, the main driving thing for my channel is going to eventually be viewer suggestions. So I highly encourage anyone who cares enough about what I think to go check out the videos that I've made. If you have anything that you want to hear talk about or reviewed, like if you have a fan fiction or a piece of artwork or a piece of music or a product that you want to hear reviewed, bring it to me and I will do my best to take a look at it and give it a thoughtful analysis.
Okay, everybody, you heard the man. Byter, anything from you?
In what regard?
Some final words?
I've already sort of given my final words, but
okay. No,
yeah.
I just want, if you have, that's fine, because Digi, I believe you are at the moment very. You are
I have
quite
to
busy
sing
with writing
according
a
to the chat.
certain.
Okay, am I gonna sing now? Am I gonna sing So Many Wonders in Fluttershy voice? Is that where we're going?
I think it would just
Yeah,
happen.
let's not.
Okay.
I guess we can do this.
Alright, let's go.
Do you want to say
What
something
is
about the
this
certain?
place filled
Okay.
with so many wonders, casting its spell that I am now wonder. Squirrels in the trees and the cute little bunnies, birds flying free and bees with their honey.
I'm very tempted to back him up with Solrak's voice.
Oh, what a magical place, and I owe it all to the Pegasus race. If I knew the ground had so much up its sleeve, I'd have come here sooner and never leave. Yes, I love everything.
What does that say about
Yes,
manliness?
everybody. This was the Crepuscular Bronies about manliness. See you all soon. Bye.
Have a good evening, everyone.